Hi, welcome to Soul. Thank you for joining me, and I really hope that you had a nice, relaxing weekend over the long bank holiday or Easter holidays that you had. I want to start today, well, not even start, but today what I want to talk about is this one phrase that I've been thinking about for a few weeks, and it is that sometimes you're going to be the villain in someone else's story. And the truth is, there isn't always something that you can do about that. Now, it's not necessarily because you're a bad person, and it's not even necessarily because you did anything wrong. It's just perception, opinion. I was reminded of this recently because for some reason I thought back to an episode in How I Met Your Mother. If you've watched it, great show, although personally not a fan of the ending. But there's one where Stella, who is one of Ted's ex-girlfriends, her husband, Tony, makes a movie called The Wedding Bride. I should have probably mentioned, spoiler alert, but this doesn't really ruin the story much. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, the movie that the husband makes in the TV show basically depicts Ted, who's the protagonist of How I Met Your Mother, as a very selfish and sensitive guy. Now, of course, we as the audience know that it's not true, but to Tony, that was his truth. That's how he saw the events, and that's how he needed to process them. It also made me think back to a friend who recently recommended a book to me, and he said, the author is kind of controversial, but the book is really interesting. And it hit me again. Everyone is controversial to someone. It just depends on your values, your experience, your lens. Some people think certain public figures are heroes. Others think they're the villain. The only difference is perception, perspective, opinion. Now, I don't mean that in a truth is relative kind of way when it comes to things like rights and justice. Last week's episode, we touched on this, right? There are things that are non-negotiable. Rights, equality, kindness, safety, the essentials. But outside of that, the more human layers of our existence are quite complex. We're all flawed. We've all hurt people, even if we didn't mean to. We've all misunderstood, miscommunicated, maybe misstepped, and yes, maybe even messed up. The real challenge is, how do we hold that without letting shame define us? How do we keep going, knowing that someone might remember us as the villain, but we're still trying to live our lives with intention and care and alignment? Now, here's the answer that I'm starting to land on. We need to try our best to live with a do-no-harm mindset. And when we do cause harm because we're human, and it's inevitable, we acknowledge, we apologize if we can, we take accountability, and we grow. We become better, and that's all we can really do. But sometimes, despite doing all of this, despite the growth, it could be that someone just refuses to accept that you are not the villain. Now, one other thing I want to add to the do no harm is we must expand that beyond people, right? It's also do no harm to the planet we live on, to species, to future generations. I'm someone who's very into sustainability, right? And I want to remind you that it's not just about recycling and eating less meat. It's absolutely a mindset as well. It's a decision that we must make to exist with a footprint, for lack of a better word, that's thoughtful and intentional. So yeah, you might be someone's villain, but don't let that stop you from being someone else's role model, from being someone who inspires growth and who wants to evolve, who wants to become better. Don't let that stop you from being your own safe space, and don't let that stop you from trying to do better every day. We're never going to be perfect, but we can choose not to be careless, and we can choose to accept when the other person just cannot get over things. Now, with that, I remind you, we do it step by step, day by day. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I will see you next week on Soul.